There we go. I'm on that bus. You ever ridden that bus? That struggle bus? I'm on that. I'm on that struggle bus today. Having internet issues. That danged old struggle bus. It thought it could, and it just could not. I promised bills paid. Yeah, they just want to hold me down, man. I want to hold down the man. Who was that? Was that Vanishing Point or Easy Rider? One or the other. They just want to hold the man down, man. The man is the man. One of those older desert automotive movies. I think it was Vanishing Point, though. Just want to hold the man down, man. Don't let the man get the word out, man. It is what it is. I hope I did not run everybody off by having internet issues. Very possible that I did, but I hope I did not. Yesterday was the 24th, so today's 25th. Alright, did I come back on? I think I did. Yeah, I'm back on. Good. So, yes, I am considering. So I'm actually not. Well, I don't want to say that. The end goal is not RN. The end goal is FNP. That's the end goal. But the way to get there is to do the ADN BSN FNP program. And I'm assuming that it's going to be a lot easier to sort of go slower and do the ADN first. Because if I do LPN to BSN, that's like a fast track program. And that's still like 60 credit hours in 2 years. So, you're just about full time. So, the end goal is FNP. That is correct, yeah. Family nurse practitioner, yes. And so that's the end goal. But that's, it's just a stepping stone is to get that ADN. So, it's something's been in my mind for a long time. I just never really. I've always wanted the FNP, but without the school part of it. So, it's I don't know. It's like when you were little and you were like, when I grow up, I'm gonna be a firefighter, but you didn't want to go through all the training to be a firefighter. You just want to go ahead and be a firefighter. I want to go ahead and just be an FNP, but I don't want to go back to school to be an FNP, But one of the providers that I work with is an FNP and has really sort of told me a lot about their struggles, with going to school and whatnot. And I got a DNP that I used to work with that was like Superman, and he was like flying back and forth to Michigan. We're in North Carolina. Michigan's not close. And he was like flying back and forth from North Carolina to Michigan to go to school. And I was like, why are you doing this to yourself, man? Several thousand miles. He was like, if I could do it, you could do it. He's Superman. I was, no, whatever, man. Dude had kids too. Like, I don't know how he did it. But, he did. He completed it. Went into cardiac medicine. I assume he's still in that area, in that field. Doing some sort of heartness. But I tell you, the hardest part to going back was the easiest part to going back from CNA to LPN is the paycheck. I'm going to miss out on some of the paycheck. And it's just going to be, a sacrifice, I guess. A DNP is a doctorate program, and a FNP is a masterate program. Is really the biggest of the differences. Both of them are providers. FNP is just a master program. DNP is a doctorate program. So it's 2 more years on top of the FNP. So I think it's a 4-year total program. I think the FNP is a 2-year post-grad program. I think. I could be wrong. I think, though. But and there's probably differences as far as like what field you can get into. Like an FNP probably has to stay, with a family physicians, urgent care, doctor's offices, things like that. But I mean, I have an FNP that works with me right now, so I would have no problem taking over her job. Not that I want, her job, but I would have no problem, doing what she's doing right now. Got some PAs I work with. I don't want to go to the PA school. I don't understand why you would be a PA and not a provider, or a MD. That one doesn't make any sense to me. Physician's assistant. So let me get my fingers out. So let's pretend we've got providers. This is your MD, your top dog. So here's your MD. Basically, you got like FNP, DNP, somewhere in these three is like an NP, and then a PA, which is a physician's assistant, and then the MD. So really they're all under the MD. They all have to sort of report off to the MD. But a PA has like a little bit more that they can do. They can be a little bit more specialized. I work with a PA that is oncology. She is an oncology cancer provider. So they can do a little bit more. I don't believe that they need to have the MD sign off on as much as the NPs do. But then again, once you start getting into that, you start getting into more charting than anything. And you may not have them in Canada. I don't know. I think you call the LPNs RPNs, registered registered practical nurses, RPNs, I think. So you may have PAs and they may just be called something different, like your PSWs. It's once you cross that border, it's a whole nother country, quite literally. It's the whole point of the border. Okay, so just in Ontario. Okay. All right. Now, Niagara Falls, that's in Ontario, correct? That's where I always tried to go. I tried to go to Niagara Falls, Canada, because I've always been told that it's prettier on the Canadian side. Yeah, than it is on the American side. Because I always wanted to go up there and I never did make it. Tried several times. Never seen the American side. I've never seen the American side either. I've never been to New York. Never been that far north. So we're both out on that one. Can you still ride a barrel down it? That's what's up. If you ride a barrel down it, I don't know why. What in the world? Like, why did people think, you know what? Let's ride a barrel down this waterfall right here. This just seems like a great idea. Let's get in this barrel. Who thought of a barrel, anyways? You know. I mean, it that absolutely makes no sense to me. You can zip line over it. Whew. I went on a zip line one time. That joker said it was at the time, I think it was the world's longest. And it was like 3/4 of a mile. And there was like 10 zip lines. So, and that one was like the 7th zip line. So the first was like 200 yards, and then like 150 yards, and then like 400 yards. After those 3 or 4, I was like, you know what? I've gone far enough. That 400-yard deal, that was enough for me. And then they were like, all right, 3/4 of a mile time. I said, no, sir. I like that 400 yards back there. That quarter mile. Of course, what would that be? 400 yards would be... No, a meter's longer than a yard. So it'd be about 350 meters. Maybe not. Maybe about 370 meters. I was a swimmer back in the day, and we had meter pools, and the older pools were yard pools. And you could definitely tell your time difference in the meter pool versus the yard pool. So I always try to equate that to swimming. You know, how much further the yard pools were versus the meter pools. That's how I learned the metric system, if you will. But one thing I don't understand is we've got miles per gallon. So like my car does, let's just say 30 miles in 1 gallon. A meter is 3 inches longer than 1 yard. So a yard is 36 inches, a meter is 39 inches. So it's just the tiniest little bit bigger. But anyways, I never understood how my car gets 30 miles to 1 gallon. But if I was to go to Canada, and I don't know the math, but my car would get like 2.6 liters to 100 kilometers. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. Why wouldn't you just say you get 6 kilometers to a liter? I've never been able to do the miles to gallon, liters to 100 transfer. I've never been able to do that in my mind. That's one that has never made sense to me. But I will say the metric system, like when I was in dialysis, our machines were Canadian, which makes no sense because we're here in America. And so you would have to change everything to metric because we'd weigh our people in pounds. And in dialysis, you got to take pounds of fluid off of someone. But it was like ounces to liters. So it's 454 ounces is 1 liter. And so you had to like do that math. because for whatever reason, the company I work for bought Canadian machines. It's like, why in the world? Why did you buy Canadian machines? We're in America. Like, y'all should know by now that we are, we don't do the metric system on the regular. We weigh people in pounds, and you don't get the metric system. I'll say the metric system is an easier system because everything's in tens. It's much easier, whereas inches is 12 inches is a foot. Ounces is what, 16 ounces is a cup, 4 cups in a quart, 2 quarts in a gallon, something like that. 64 ounces in a quart, 128 ounces in a gallon. It's not a 1 to 10. It's not like milliliters to liters is 100 or 1,000. Whatever it may be. It's to me, the metric system is easier and the imperial system is harder, simply because we have so many more variables rather than the 1 to 10. But and then when you get in the UK, they weigh everybody in stone, which is like 13 pounds. When I was in dialysis, we had to do a tremendous amount of converting, which would have, if we would have just even if we would have changed everything to metric when I was in dialysis, it would have saved us a tremendous amount of time. If we would have changed because our temperature on the machine, because the blood comes out, runs through this filter, and then comes back in the machine. Well, the machine's running at 37 degrees. And so 37 degrees isn't 98.6, because 98.6 is what we use, That's our normal temperature. But the machine's running 37. Like, I don't know what 37 means. That's cold to me. You're about to freeze at 37 degrees. So if the company that I worked for would have just converted everything over or nothing over, we would have saved so much time in dialysis. What are pros and cons of working in a female-dominant field? Pro number 1, and this is going to sound sexist, but I say it every time, and I will say it every time, you're going to be the favorite. You just will. I don't understand it. I don't know why male nurses, for some reason, become the favorite. And you probably will be asked to do tasks a lot more often than your female counterparts, such as like lifting people, picking up people, things like that. A con would be the conversations at work. They can turn Man Hate Monday in a hurry. But at the same time, there's sort of a camaraderie in nursing at the same time. But another con would be you're going to have some old nurse that's going to want to chew you up and spit you out. Sort of like a hazing sort of deal. You're going to have that nurse, no matter what. Definitely, there's definitely pros to it. Definitely are, because it's female dominant. Nobody expects to see a man, and all of a sudden they see a man, they're like, oh, well, let's treat the man better for whatever reason, and they do. Patients do. Patients treat the male nurses better for whatever reason. I have seen it firsthand many times, where a patient give a female nurse a hard time and then not give me a hard time just because I'm a man. It happens often, very often. You probably got hired right on. Your instructor was right. So when I did my CNA program was part of my nursing school. We had a recruiter show up, for Bayada. I don't know if you ever heard of Bayada. A recruiter for Bayada showed up, and she was like, "We're looking for everybody in the class. We got a job for everybody or whatever." Anyways, I finished class, took my test, went straight to Bayada. Like right after taking my test, I literally went straight to Bayada, the company that was there doing recruiting, and she hired me on like boom that quick. And she was like, "We have like 3 times the male jobs than we do female jobs," because there were like it was home health. But she was like, "Yeah, because there's like 13, 14-year-old boys that are in wheelchairs that don't necessarily want a woman to help them. They don't, because I was an awkward teenage boy. I know it. I would not want a younger female helping me out of my wheelchair, or, giving me a tube feed, or, helping me with my catheter, whatever it may be. And so there were a lot more male jobs than there were female jobs, like straight out of school. In home health, there was. I don't know that any other area was that way. Home health was definitely that way, though. I think when I became a nurse, it was like 97.8% female dominant. I think it's starting to sort of shift a little bit, especially with like the economy and stuff. People, men going back to school and becoming nurses, things like that. But there's definitely work in it, no matter what, man or woman. I'll tell you, area dialysis. That's an area where there was a lot of men. Was dialysis. Dialysis is probably where I've worked with the most men. Was in dialysis. Female leadership. I've never had a male DON or anything like that, but female leadership was at dialysis. But a lot of the men on the floor. Not sure why. It's a pretty demanding job, believe it or not. There's a lot of bending, picking up, moving. I'm not sure if that could be the reason why, but definitely, it was still a physically demanding job. You moved the whole day. Roughly 10 to 12 hours. You were moving. It definitely wasn't a job that you got to sit still at. But it was a high paying job. I'll say that much. It was definitely a high paying job. I didn't work out in it, but it was a high paying position. I did it for about 7 months, I guess. Excuse me. Got a little bit choked up there. But I didn't. It just wasn't for me. Maybe for some, but it was not for me. Shoot fire. I'm trying to get my thing to work here. My old computer here. School did not have an OB rotation. Let me read that again. No, I did not have an OB rotation. I had a sim lab, which is a sim lab is basically like there's a mannequin having a baby, which is it really. By that time, I was already a father, and I did not get an OB rotation. Yes, that is 100% correct. Do I think I would have got better training or nursing training or career? I don't think so. I really don't think anything else would have been different. I did not want to go into OB. OB was not something that interested me. And it just, yeah, I honestly don't think anything would have been different. I really don't. But yeah, I did not get an OB rotation. And to be honest, not very many. So I didn't even have the option to do an OB rotation. Like that wasn't even on the cards for me. But a lot of the people that wanted to do an OB rotation didn't necessarily get to do an OB rotation. Some did, some didn't. It was that sort of one of those things that you kind of had to wait on to see if a spot opened up for you. But yeah, they didn't even give me the option. They didn't even give me the chance to do so. But I was the only male in my school, in my nursing school. So I'm not sure if that played a role in it. I know that played a role in it, but I don't know if there would have been like 5 of us. If that would have changed, if we were able to do that or not. Did I work swing shift or graveyard shift, and is the pay worth it? I've done all of them. Currently, right now, the shift I work is 4 a.m. to noon. Really about 1:30. And the pay, the pay is worth it with an asterisk. The one I don't recommend doing is the Baylor shift. If you've ever heard of that one, it's 16-hour shifts. 2 or 3 16-hour shifts. You either do like 11 to 7, 11 to 7, 11p to 7, 11p to 7p. I think that's right. Anyways, it's 16 hours, and you do like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday. That one I don't recommend, because you have 8 hours off before you have to be back. Like that's eating, bathing, getting home, doing all that before you get back to work in 8 hours. And that one I don't think is worth it. It probably pays the best out of the bunch. The Baylor shift does. But I do not think it's worth it. The swing shift I didn't like, simply because I never felt like I had a schedule. I always just felt like I was sleeping or working. Graveyard shift is probably the best out of the 3 that I've mentioned and the 2 that you've named. Pay is worth it if you think it is. I'll say it that way. If you're missing your children's ball games, if you're, not able to have a social life, things like that, then the pay is probably not going to be worth it. If you're able to work and get everything done that you want to get done, then yeah, it's worth it. Because shift diff was several dollars an hour. And so several dollars an hour could be worth it to some people. It all depends on, on what you feel like. The hardest part is staying up all night and then like staying awake. That's so hard. What is up, Alex? It's hard to do that. I have worked 2 jobs at the same time. It was terrible and I hated it. I did the current job that I'm at. I've actually done it a few times. So the job I'm at, I've been there for like 7 years. I went PRN and went full-time in dialysis. And so my days off from dialysis, I worked my job I got now in substance abuse and did that. And I hated it because I actually like the job that I have better than my full-time, which was dialysis. So it felt like a vacation almost. Whenever I was at my, back at my job I am now. And then I did it again when I did home health. I worked a regular job and did home health after I got off work. It was hard to do. It's hard to stay awake. Again, hard to stay awake that long because you're going to bed at like if you do 2 jobs, even if you do 4 hours. So you do, let's just say you do a 12-hour shift. And then you do another 4 hours, that's 16 hours. You have 8 hours to get home, bed, bath, fed, and then back up again. So it's hard. It's easier, in my opinion, it's easier to pick up overtime than it is to have 2 jobs. Unless you, like that second job is like you're washing dishes at a local restaurant that something like that. But even then, you're probably doing that for fun. You're probably not doing that for, big time monetary gains. Excuse me. Excuse me. But yes, I have done it. It's definitely not easy. I don't recommend it. It looks like my internet's going to hang out with me for a little while today, which is good. I love it when the internet stays on, unlike what it did earlier tonight. Oops. I hope it's still working. It's not cooperating. There we go. All right, there we go. All right. I honestly did not know that substance abuse I did not know that nursing in substance abuse existed, to be honest with you. It's still main things that a nurse does, med pass vitals, things like that. It's just probably more like mental health than anything. If you've ever seen the show, and I've compared it to this before. If you've ever seen the show, it was a Dr. Drew show. I think it was called Celebrity Rehab. He had nurses working for him. Now he was that was in a group home. I'm not in a group home, but I'll compare it to very similar to what Dr. Drew does. Basically, all these celebrities would get together and they got into groups and they had counselors and the nurses would give them their medications and things like that. That I'm that nurse that would be giving the celebrities their medications. And Dr. Drew would be meeting with the doctors or the celebrities and whatnot. I don't remember how much they actually showed of the nurses in that show, but I do remember that they did have nurses in the show. So that's probably the best sort of description I can give as to what I do. Typically, I see many patients a day. And then, go on from there. Do I have any special certifications? No, I do not have any special certifications. I just have continuing ed hours. I have a lot of continuing ed hours that I actually have to keep up every quarter. My continuing ed hours. Just finished second quarter. That's awesome. Pass your first ATI. Please forgive me. I don't know what an ATI is. That I don't think that existed when I was there. On break going into mental, Jerry, and maternal. What to expect? In mental health, in mental health, you're going to think, wow, this is mind-blowing. Quick story. When I did my mental health rotation, I had this weird guy. He was weird. And he told me a word. And he was like, the government's poisoning your mind. Poisoning your mind with this. And he named it. And I can't remember the name of the word. He was like, you can't even Google it, man. You can't even Google it. The government's hiding it from you. If you try to Google it, Google won't even say nothing about it because the government's hiding this, he named the word, from you. And so I literally went back and Googled the word, and Google didn't even say, did you mean to say, or anything like that. It was just a blank page. And for like the splittest of seconds, I was like, oh crap, is this guy being legit right now? And then I was like, oh, well, never mind. We're on a mental psych unit right now. Mental is going to blow your mind. Blew my mind, at least. Maybe your mind won't be blown. Geriatrics is really just same old thing, just older people. It is what it is. And maternal, I never ever got to do it. So I don't know about maternal. ATI is a comprehensive for the first and second quarters. So it's sort of like a final, like a big final, I guess. Is what I would imagine it being. But yeah, mental health was always like the craziest one to me. But yeah, unfortunately, I cannot help you with maternal. Oh yeah, it was much harder than I thought. I thought nursing school was going to be, I honestly didn't know what it would be like, but I thought that it would be sort of like when you're in high school and you take a test, there is a right answer and there's 3 wrong answers if it's multiple choice. In nursing school, if you take a test and it's multiple choice, all 4 answers could be correct. You have to find the most correct out of the 4 answers. And it's incredibly hard to figure out what is the most correct answer. That's the best way I can put it. And that was so hard for me to understand, that it's not like a knowledge-based setup. It's a evidence-based practice is what they called it when I was there. It's probably changed names now, but they did call it an evidence-based practice. It was so hard for me to fathom. Mental health is definitely the best. I mean, not the best, but the one that you're going to be shaking your head at so many times. One thing about mental health in substance abuse, we deal with a lot of mental health. One thing about mental health. So if let's say this is black, right? We can both say that this is black. But if I have a mental health issue and I know this is blue, this is blue. So whatever I know, if I'm in mental health, if I'm schizoaffective, and I know that that's blue, and you're not going to convince me that that's blue. And so in mental health, they know they're right. They know that is a fact. They know that's right. Even though you know that they're completely bonkers and wrong all the way around, they know they're right. And you're not, it's going to be very hard to convince them that they could be wrong. Just let that. It took me a long time to sort of figure that out. Even in the area of, even in substance abuse, working in substance abuse. Like, wait a minute, you really think you're right? How can I convince you that this is maybe not correct, that maybe I am right? But, they, it's hard to sort of describe, but that's sort of the best I can do. But it's definitely interesting. The theory will probably just be just as intense, and the farm, or do you mean farm as a subject? I get like SSRIs and all of those. I had a hard time learning those meds. And how did I change my approach? Basically, you got to do a lot of listening. If you can do enough listening, you can maybe find some way that they think that they know they're wrong. So let's go back to the remote. So this is black, but I believe it's blue. But, we know it's black, but I believe it's blue. But I'm sitting here looking at it, and it might have a little bit of a different tint to it. The different sides I change it to. You just listen to them and sort of figure out, hey, you might be wrong here. You see how that tint's a little different, And no, I don't just play along. But you really got to listen to the whole story. It was described to me one time like, imagine you have a story. You have a story that you want to tell, and you want to tell it to whoever's listening. Imagine you have that story, and anytime anybody interrupts you, you just keep telling that story. You let them finish the story, and then you sort of start asking, questions. So I'm not really playing along, but just doing a bunch of listening. Just a lot of listening and trying to figure out, where are we going with this? The best way I can describe it. Well, I'm glad you did good in pharmacology. Therapeutic listening. That's a big word. Yes. Therapeutic listening is a good way to put it. And yes, NCLEX questions suck. I don't know that they'll be as difficult because hopefully with the med-surg and the pharmacology, you got a very good foundation and you are understanding what is being asked of you. And so with that going on, that shouldn't be as difficult, but it's not going to be easy. So if you did very good in med-surg, which is, the splatter of everything, you should have a good foundation. So hopefully you have that good, rock solid foundation, and then everything else is going to pile up on it. It's not going to be easy, but it probably won't be as difficult. Yes, I did pass my NCLEX on the first attempt. And my NCLEX turned off. I forget what the number question was, 65 or 75, whatever the minimum was. The NCLEX cut off on the minimum. And I was so scared. I was like, dang, I failed this thing. I know I failed. And I paid the like $20 or whatever it was to get my results back in 48 hours. And I ended up passing. Yeah, don't come into it with a bunch of confidence though. If you come into it sort of thinking, oh, this is not going to be easy, you should be all right. It's when you start getting into what was the hard one at the end? Because there's one, oncology. Oncology was one where it's like, all right, you give all of these meds for a normal person, but you don't give any of them for oncology. My oncology may be easier now, but That one was hard for me. Um, how did I study for the NCLEX? Kaplan. I was part of Kaplan. Had really just started like a new program. I can't remember the name of it, but my community college was a Kaplan, sort of like a where you try new things. Um, can't think of the name of it right now, but Kaplan came to my school. It was actually part of our curriculum. We got it. We got it as part of our tuition. But I think it was expensive if you bought it out yourself. But Kaplan is how I studied. We were part of a pilot program. For Kaplan because they were, what were they creating? They were creating something, and it may not even come to pass. But we were part of the pilot program, so Kaplan was actually part of our tuition, and we got it for free. And that's what I used to study, and I passed, so I guess it worked. But I've heard of plenty of people using what's the name of that app? Underworld or UWorld. I've heard of plenty of people using the app UWorld to study. So if you haven't heard of that one, I've been told that one's a good one. I didn't use it. I definitely did not go into the NCLEX cold. I went into the NCLEX with a little bit of knowledge of what I was about to be doing, which definitely helped. It was definitely a good thing for me. As I am looking, how long after graduation? I started focusing on. So our pilot program kicked in the last semester of school, and so I started studying for it then, while I was still in school. Probably, some people probably would tell you that's the wrong thing to do, but I started studying for the NCLEX with like 3 weeks to go, something like that, before I'd even taken my final, my last final, my final. I started studying for the NCLEX. If I was going to specialize, I would have to stick with substance abuse. It's just what I know. That's what I've been doing now for, like I said, 7 years. That's what I would have to specialize in. But I don't know. When I was in school, I thought I was gonna be med surg all day, and then I ended up not going med surg. I don't know. Geriatrics is probably the biggest area for LPNs. The most area for growth is probably geriatrics. Mental health is also a big area for LPNs. But I would just have to stay with substance abuse. It was definitely it's just what I know. So that's just where I would stay, I guess. Wound care, yes, I love wound care. I did love wound care. Yeah, that would be a good one. When I was in, oh my gracious. Thank you, Alex. That's awesome. I wonder if I can, like, give you a thank you back. I don't want to remove. No, I don't want to do all that. I can't give you a special thank you. Dang it. I wish I could. Like a text. I tried to. But thank you, Alex. That's awesome. I lost my train of thought. But wound care, when I was in the hospital, I did love the wet to dry dressings. I absolutely loved the wet to dry dressings. Like, you could just peel them back and you'd see all the dead meat come off, and those dressings would come out, and then you'd clean them up and put them all back together. It was so cool. It was awesome doing wound care. The smell of wound care is something that will get to you. It's something that takes a while to get used to. Let me try this. Oh, well, that did not work as the way I thought it would be. Yeah, man, thank you. I do. Thank you so much, Alex. That is awesome. Thank you. Just thank you. That's all I can come up with. My vocabulary is not the best. Yeah, there is definitely a smell to wound care. And it's one that it's been compared to garbage. If you've ever smelled like garbage on a hot day, like a trash can, like a dumpster, it's probably the best. Like a really hot dumpster. And yes, heat makes dumpsters smell worse. That's the best way I can put it. A really hot dumpster. It's pretty gross. I know. I am fully aware. Blood, once you get enough blood, it has a smell. And then flesh has a smell. And then, there's smells in wound care. There just is. It is very awesome though. I will say I could deal with the smell. I really could, because wound care is so cool. It is definitely one I could definitely see myself specializing in. Not anymore, because that's just not where my knowledge is anymore. Or I don't think my knowledge ever was there. And the thing about wound care is a lot of nursing homes, like a lot of nursing homes, have wound care specific nurses, and many of them are LPNs, not necessarily RNs. So definitely a growing field. But the thing about, if you went into nursing home, you would have to like work your way into the wound care. Like, you couldn't just start out as wound care. You would have to sort of build your way up. But it's definitely there. Stage 4 dressings in your clinicals, and the smell is unique. Yeah. Would you agree? Is it a hot dumpster? That's the best I can come up with. It's a hot dumpster is the best I can put it as. And the wound care nurse does tend to move very quickly. The wound care nurse in a long-term care facility is typically one who can do the job quickly, efficiently, quality and quantity. They are very good. And if you get a wound vac, them jokers are terrible to work with, and somehow those wound care nurses can just put a wound vac on something in a hurry. They're amazing. And then they got to chart like a lot. Because you got to chart, did the wound get bigger? Did the wound get smaller? Is there stuff coming out of it? They do a lot more charting, and I don't necessarily know that they see the same amount of patients as like a regular floor nurse, but they don't do any less work. Tunneling. Oh, tunneling is awesome. Oh, man. One time. So let's pretend my hand is a butt. I know my hand is not a butt. Let's say that this is the crack of a butt. One time there was a cheek and we tunneled that thing, and that joker went like up and in and around, and like we just kept like feeding the, I can't remember the name of the string, the sterile string that you use. We just kept feeding it into the wound of the butt, and it was like a whole tube of that sterile string in this person's butt, and the wound was only like that big. It was like just big enough to get that Q-tip in there, that really long Q-tip, that really long sterile Q-tip. It was just long enough to sort of get the head of that in there, and we put like a whole tube of that sterile string in that person's butt when I was in school. And like when you pulled that mess out, it was like you were pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, and it looks like snot. Like it comes out like you blew your nose on like a cold winter day, that sort of green mucousy snot stuff. All that string had just turned into that, and it was just, just gross snot for years coming out of that. Yeah, and it just keeps going and going and going. Like you're like, where is this string going? Like what happened here? I did one when I was still at the hospital on a pacemaker. Smaller individual, little incision, got infected where the pacemaker was, and we were putting 2x2s or 4x4s in it. I can't remember which, but like, I was thinking, the incision's like that big, and it's like right there. I was like, oh, we'll probably use like one 4x4. Well, it was like 5 on that joker because it had tunneling. I was like, that is ridiculous. Why are we using so many 4x4s on this? Or 2x2s. I can't remember if it's 4x4 or 2x2s, but it was like a bunch of 4x4s and like an ABD, because the ABD is like that big. And Joker covered up like the whole chest of this individual. I'm like, what are we doing with all this stuff? But I haven't actually done any sort of wound care in a long time. I've looked at some fairly recently. I've looked at a few, but I haven't actually. I don't have orders to do any sort of wound care anymore. So without orders, I'm not touching it. But I've looked at a few, but that wound care is pretty cool. Wound care is definitely something I could see myself getting into. But the tunneling, yeah, I forgot all about tunneling. Tunneling is just cool. It is just cool the way it works. It'd be like giving somebody a drill on a human person and saying like, go crazy. No, it's no walk in the park. There's a lot of charting in wound care, a lot of charting. And here locally, like maybe like 3-4 miles from my house, we have an actual wound care center. All they do is wound care. Care for them old wounds. But yeah, no walk in the park. I know it's itchy. And it's something that would, you gotta have a heart for. You gotta have a passion for. And you better know sterile procedure too. Excuse me, because a lot of that stuff is sterile. Like a lot of it is sterile. More of it is sterile than not. But we have come to the point of the live stream where I'm going to go ahead and say 12:30 is cut off. So at 12:30 I will be ending the live stream. So what is that, 18 minutes from now? Alright, David. You are welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight. All the way up there in Canada. Thank you so much for joining me all the way up there. Straight for the bridge program. The thing about the bridge program is, I do them. I try to do them every Saturday. So try to every Saturday. Thing about the bridge programs are, once you tell yourself you're going to do it, you better go ahead and do it. Because once you see that first big full-time paycheck, you're going to be like, dang, I don't know if I can go back to school now. So yeah, the bridge program may be worth it, especially if you can get into it like immediately after school. But part-time LVN, ain't nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it at all. Because those, the bridge programs are, well, depending on where you're at, about a year. So by the time you, work for a year and go to school, you'll come out of it, having that year's worth of experience and then going into being an ADN, which will definitely help. To be honest, I kind of wish I'd have done mine right out of school, because now here I am 10 years out of school and all my stuff's expired. All my dang sciences, and I don't think my English is expired, but I could be wrong. But all my stuff's expired, and I got to go back and redo those. But they're probably online. Yeah, I'm with your wife. I think the first time you get a travel assignment and you see that big old paycheck, especially if you're doing a travel assignment, that's where the money is at. The first time you get a good travel assignment, especially if it's early, you're like, shoot, I'm not bridging over. Here I am making $55 an hour. Count me out of that mess. I worked with a nurse she was an LPN based out of Virginia, and she went to Maine, I believe. I think she said $58 an hour for her assignment. $58 an hour. That's like $116,000 a year. I mean, that is a tremendous amount of money. if you graduate, you have the potential to, if you go back to your school, for them to not expire. But the problem is sciences, and I was told this, have 5 years. And I am now 10 years out. So mine are 5 years expired. But yeah, they expire once you graduate. Well, 5 years after you graduate, which makes no sense, because it's not like some sort of field that changes all the time. I understand that, science does change, but biology is, still sort of biology. A&P is still A&P, but they expire. I guess I think I'm gonna forget everything, which I already have, but I have forgot it all. Oh no, it says no data. I hope I still have the internet. I think I still got the internet. Yep, okay. I still got it. But yeah, absolutely no fun when those classes expire. And then once I go get my FNP, maybe that won't expire. That's what's up. Sorry, I was reading a comment. Patients don't understand fluid restrictions. Patients do not understand fluid restrictions. So true. It's hard to get people to understand what a fluid restriction is. Yes, sir. I will be back on every Saturday. I got a couple more minutes. I got about 10 more minutes before I end it. So I'm gonna hang out for about 10 more minutes. But yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for just being here, joining the live stream. FNP would be big bucks. Deers with many antlers. Big old deers. The big bucks. That's what I like to hang out with, is the big bucks. I'm not getting into it for the big bucks, but that would definitely be good. Be able to make my Ferrari payment. If I ever had a Ferrari payment. I've never even had a car payment. I always paid cash for everything. Shoot, if I made the big bucks, I might do my own clothes shopping. Excuse me. I don't even buy my own clothes. I let other people do it. I let my wife go buy clothes for me. Things like that. But if I was a FNP, I might buy me some Levi's. Try to watch all the videos when you get a chance. Well, thank you so much. You can skip over the racing content and the truck I've been working on. You can skip over all that mess. Unless you're into that, then you can watch that too. Because what I do when I upload a video of my truck or a racing video or something like that, I don't put it so that my subscribers see it. It gets on YouTube like with no whatever it's called. It doesn't go to my subscribers whenever my put my truck videos up, things like that. So, don't worry about them. But yeah, I'd settle for a new vet too. That would be pretty cool. Oh, the problem with a new vet. Excuse me. Problem with the new vet is they're not straight drive. I like all my vehicles to have 3 pedals. But it would be cool. Because they look like a Ferrari. Or a Lambo, because they're mid-engine. They do look so cool. I don't think I've ever heard one. I've seen them like at, dealerships and gas stations and stuff like that. But I don't think I've ever heard one. So I don't know what they sound like. In person, I've heard them on YouTube, but you can't really judge. Excuse me, gracious. Can't really judge, very well on YouTube. But yes, I believe I'd settle. I'd settle for a new vet if I have to, if I must. It wouldn't be. It'd be my second choice. Whatever it may be. So if you're at LVN or you're in LVN school, so you're either in California or Texas. If you're in California, you would be making a vet payment and then a gas for the vet payment. Because I imagine that gas is, $27 a gallon out there in California, if you're in California. I don't think it's any cheaper in Texas either, but definitely more expensive out in the West. Of course, it's not really cheap out here either, but it is what it is. What does they say? Cost of living's going up. That old cost of living. That mess gets aggravating. We got a cost of living raise one time when I was at the hospital. It was 42 cents. Texas, yeah, okay. Yeah. It is I think I saw 444 earlier today. And I think that they did that because it was 449, but they were like, no, it's 2 all 4s. That was the cheapest that I saw. It was like earlier in the week, it was like 479, I think. Man, I think it's somewhere around 460. Probably 459. Definitely not cheap. Not cheap at all. But it is what it is. One of my buddies, when we were younger, he used to say, every time I see a broke down car, I'm going to steal all the gas out of it. And I say, well, what do you think? What do you think if it broke down for, not having no gas in it? He's like, no, cars don't break down for not having gas in them. I don't understand your logic. I think cars can break down for not having gas in them. Especially the ones on the highway that are, in between 2 exits that are far apart. I would imagine they tried to stretch it and didn't make it. I'm like, no, I'm going to take gas out of them. No, I don't, Not sure it works that way. I mean, yeah, cars break down for various reasons, but many times they break down because they ain't got no gas in them. I guess he didn't. He did not see it that way. Good times, good times. Oh, assisted living would be cake. If you get a good facility. If you get a facility that takes anybody, then it's going to be just like a nursing home. But if you get like an assisted living where you're basically sitting there watching TV with a mess load of old people all day, yes. You can do a lot of studying there too. So yeah, I would definitely say assisted living would be a good one. As long as you get a sling blade. Yeah, as long as you get a a good one. Assisted living will be cake. I didn't work with a girl. One of my buddies married a girl who was at an assisted living facility and actually got so bored that she just completely left nursing. Which is like what? You got bored so you left nursing? You didn't like try anything else? She was like, oh, all I do is sit there all day. And like, you could have, done anything else. She became a massage therapist. She was like, I didn't really do anything. I just sat there all day. Assisted living memory care, you're probably going to be just as busy as you would be at a nursing home. I don't think it'll be any easier. Maybe like your acuity or your patient load would be less, but I don't think it'd be any easier than a nursing home. I think a nursing home would be about the same if you were doing that. If you're doing like night shift at an assisted living facility, now you're talking. Yeah, you wouldn't really develop many nursing skills. Maybe time management. Time management would probably be the one that you would develop the most, but you probably wouldn't see any more tunneling. Probably not in an assisted living facility. But yeah, it would be easy. I think it would be easier to get through school with a job like that, something like that. But in any case, I'm going to go ahead and cut it off at this point in time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for joining. Thank you for 3,000 subscribers that I hit today. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and end it off. And I will be back live next Saturday, Lord willing, unless something happens. But until then, I guess I will see y'all in a week. Thank you so much.